Hi folks, welcome back to the workshop. My name's Brent. This is a follow-up to a fairly popular video from last year where I talked about using the shaper or the spindle moulder to make tenons. That focused primarily on tenons up to 50 millimeters or 2 inches long. This video is going to focus on the tooling that I have for making tenons 2 inches, 50 millimeters long and longer. I hope you find it helpful. Before I get into talking about the tooling options too much, I want to have a quick safety discussion. Machining tenons on the shaper or spindle moulder is very safe, provided you have proper training, you have proper tooling, you have a machine suitable for the job, and you have proper guarding. If you don't have all of those, go get what you need before you start machining tenons on the shaper. Provided your machine is suitable for the job, it also needs to be very accurate and very well set up. Because a lot of this tooling is of larger diameter, it tends to exaggerate any imperfections either in the spindle or in the sliding carriage that's used for machining the tenons, or both. So if your machine is really well dialed in, you've got all the safety issues looked after and just need some tooling, I've got some here to show you. Let's take a look. So the first option involves some regular guests on this channel, my well-used and well-loved Whitehill combi heads. I've talked about these heads on the channel a lot, but they were also featured in the previous video where I talked about machining short tenons on the spindle moulder. And that's because these blocks, as well as the next blocks I'll discuss, are entirely suitable for making short tenons as well. So I'll go over them fairly quickly here, but I'll put a link in the description below to the previous video where I go into a lot of details on these blocks and the pros and cons. But these blocks are examples of blocks that were designed to be flush mounted on the top of the spindle. A flush mounted block permits the tenon to run over top of the block, so the length of your tenon is not limited by the distance from the perimeter to the spindle. What that means is you can make longer tenons without larger diameter cutter blocks. That said, it's a good idea to have your tenon length not exceed the diameter of the block. It's safer that way, but also much more efficient. Fortunately, Whitehill has 3 blocks of this type to choose from to best suit your work and your machine capabilities. Used for square shoulders, this block will do up to 96 millimeters, this one 125 mils, and the largest 175 millimeters. All of these options give you long-lasting cutting edges, clean cheeks and shoulders with the spurs and shear cut knives, and in fact, the largest combi has enough room around the perimeter for 4 cutters, making it a Z4 shear cut block. All of these blocks will accept knives and limiters for even longer tenons with scribed or coped shoulders if desired. So here are a couple of additional benefits. They're very cost effective. You may already own one of these blocks, but if you want to get into tenoning, you only have to purchase 1 block. These are suitable for lighter, lower powered machines because you're only machining 1 cheek and shoulder at a time. And typically you have less overall revolving mass when you're only running 1 cutter head at a time. These are also suitable for machines that don't have the low RPM option required to run large diameter blocks. On the other side, you have to move the component past the cutter head twice to achieve a tenon. And because the height of the block is what determines your tenon thickness, it can take a little bit more time to dial in your tenon thickness that you want perfectly. But let's take a look at a combi head in action. In this shot, I'm making a 5-inch long tenon on the end of a 12-inch wide bottom rail for a passageway door in some paint grade material. I'm coping one side and leaving a square shoulder on the other side for an applied mold. Even in Western red cedar, which is known as being very difficult to machine, the results are excellent. The next 2 options are large diameter blocks that are best used with well-adjusted and robust tenoning equipment. While a bolt-on sliding table attachment like you see me use on this channel can do the job for shorter stock, a side-mounted tenoning carriage would be seen as the better option for this large diameter tooling, especially taking heavy cuts. This is a 300 millimeter diameter carbide insert style tenon disc, also from Whitehill Tools. You saw smaller versions of these in my earlier video. These are available in diameters from 150 to 300 millimeters as standard, giving tenon lengths up to 114 millimeters in one pass. Larger versions are available by special request. The 30 millimeter thick versions are available with shear cutting knives and in a Z4 dual shear configuration with spurs top and bottom for very clean cuts. The carbide inserts and spurs are very long lasting, they're easy to replace, and this tooling will always be the same diameter even after you've refreshed the cutting edges. This means that any jigs you've spent time making will always work even after you've replaced the cutters. The initial setup and fine-tuning is very straightforward. You simply place the required number of spacers between the blocks and adjust them if necessary. This makes for a very fast setup, but also makes it very easy to adjust your tenon to match your mortise or tooling if required. On the other side, this probably would be a more expensive option than a flush-mounted block. It also may require special guarding and certainly requires a heavy, well-adjusted machine. So let's see a couple of these in action. So the last option I have are these limiter style tenon discs, also from Whitehill Tools, that take replaceable high-speed steel knives and limiters. These are available up to 200 millimeters in diameter, and that's 250 millimeters with the knives installed, for tenons up to 99 millimeters long, or just short of 4 inches. Now, the high-speed steel knives aren't really suitable for man-made materials, though they can be had carbide tipped for greater durability if you need them. Knives are available in many different profiles, meaning you can scribe or cope one or both of your shoulders if desired, with of course the matching sticking or mold cutters are also available from Whitehill for standard shaper tooling. And of course you can have custom profiles made for your tenon discs as well as your standard tooling if you need them. These discs can use straight knives, of course, for square shoulder tenons if you want. This flexibility allows you to have one shoulder coped and the other square, but also you can have shoulders offset from each other simply by having the knives ground to the offset that you need. Now, this can be achieved with the previous option, but you'd need to acquire an additional block of a different diameter to achieve the offset that you're after. I should note, however, that these blocks can actually be used stacked with the carbide insert blocks mentioned previously. Talk to Whitehill about that if you need more details. So while these blocks offer the ultimate in flexibility, you can have two square shoulders, you can have one coped, the other square, you can have both coped, and you can have offset tenons very easily. Used as straight cutters, these typically won't be as durable or as long lasting as the carbide insert cutters and the previous blocks. In this example, we have the limiter style tenon disc on the bottom, scribing or coping the profiled shoulder, and a square carbide insert style block machining the top cheek and shoulder for a square rebate. This scenario mates your longest lasting tooling, the carbide insert block, to the task repeated on many jobs, and the flexible limiter tooling to that which may change from job to job, the profile. So at this point, many of you are probably starting to wonder about the other side of the joint, the mold and rebate, or the sticking side of things as referred to in North America. I'm going to go into that in a lot more detail in an upcoming video, but suffice to say for now, all the profile options available from Whitehill for tenoning are also available on the mold and rebate of the sticking side of things. And similarly, we saw that there are a number of different ways to machine a tenon. There are also a number of different tooling options for machining the mold and rebate. You have high-speed steel options, you have a mix of high-speed steel and carbide insert, and then you have a pure carbide insert option. Interestingly, that there are a number of options available that allow you to machine the mold and rebate all in one pass through the spindle molder, which makes everything a lot faster but also a lot more consistent. And that includes the means to respect different tenon widths, different tenon thickness, different relative rebate depths, and the whole works. But we'll get into that in more detail in an upcoming video. If you found this helpful or interesting, please hit the thumbs up button. Ask any questions you may have. I do enjoy answering them. But also, Whitehill has always been very helpful answering questions that I forwarded to them. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.